When Mattson Tomlin, a writer on the Batman Part 2 and Project Power, sat down to pin Terminator Zero, he hit a hurdle he wasn't expecting. It didn't have anything to do with continuity, which feels like the obvious head-scratcher, given all the time tampering across 6 movies. As Tomlin tells Entertainment Weekly, the show treats all the past films as canon. We're not going to pretend that the 3rd movie didn't happen. We're not going to pretend that the 6th movie didn't happen, he says. No, the specific challenge related to the setting itself. The powers that be at Netflix, Skydance, and animation studio production I.G. wanted Terminator Zero to have some kind of Japanese component. Tomlin took it a step further and set the 8-episode anime in Japan. I was aware that there aren't really guns in Japan, and I don't think I quite appreciated how real that was, he says of his predicament. Perfect example. His first pass at the Season 1 scripts featured a sequence where violence breaks out all over Tokyo, prompting citizens to pull out firearms. My partners at production I.G. came back and said, "Hey, so, there are no guns in Japan? If we needed a gun, we don't know where we would get it." It was just such a stunning moment for me, like, oh wow, I am an American. That instance is a good indication of how Terminator Zero breaks from what audiences have come to expect from this franchise. It's less busting into a neighbor's car to grab the pistol that just so happens to be in the glove compartment, and more sword fights with a Terminator that has blades for arms. There's also a definite taxi driver, Travis Bickle kind of vibe in there, Tomlin adds, referring to Robert De Niro's iconic Martin Scorsese movie character. If I was going to fight a Terminator and I don't have guns, what are the weapons that I could concoct? The biggest deviation with the anime, however, is the lack of the Connors, namely Sarah and John. Terminator Zero will ditch the core faces of the franchise thus far to focus on a set of wholly original characters. I think that it's time to go into new characters and not burden myself with another John and Sarah Connor saga. There's been a run at that a couple of different times, Tomlin says. There are a lot of callbacks to the other films, he adds. Fans who really know the movies are going to be doing the Leo meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but it's not going to be as direct as John Connor walks in, because John Connor does not walk in. The show primarily takes place in Japan in the year 1997, on the cusp of Judgment Day, the pivotal moment when Skynet's military AI network becomes self-aware, leading to a decade-spanning war between an endless army of machines and the human survivors. There are still the familiar Terminator beats. A soldier from this hellish future is sent back in time to protect a scientist named Malcolm Lee, who is working to launch a competing AI system to Skynet. An unrelenting machine assassin in the guise of a human is hunting him, which also puts his 3 children in harm's way. I knew that I wanted to tell a time travel story, and I knew I wanted to tell an almost Godfather-like multi-generational saga that would ultimately follow this family with these kids, Tomlin says. What I wanted to do, if we get to do multiple seasons, is to see these kids grow up and see who they become. Tomlin was very much inspired by the first 2 Terminator movies, 1984's The Terminator and 1991's Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Although a certain rifle-touting robot with a thick Austrian accent and a killer motorcycle jacket might not be popping up in the anime, he wanted to emulate the feeling of uncertainty to who's good and who's bad. Tomlin points to Michael Biehn's Kyle Reese in that first movie. You don't know what's going on with that guy. You do not know that he is the hero. In a similar way for Terminator Zero, he adds, these are all original characters. We don't know who anybody is. All of those answers are going to absolutely be revealed, and they'll be revealed pretty quickly. The inspiration comes through further in the tone of the series. Unlike later installments that have what Tomlin describes as muscular sci-fi action, he embraced the horror elements of director James Cameron's movies. There's a completely valid version of the Terminator franchise where the Terminator is synonymous with Jason, Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger, where he is this unrelenting serial killer, he explains. There's a little bit of Friday the 13th in here. There's a little bit of Michael Myers from Halloween in here. Just no guns. All episodes of Terminator Zero drop Thursday, August 29th, at 3 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 a.m. Pacific Time on Netflix.